Hello designers, we'll be making this gown because of this video. The upper part is a shirt design. It has a button like a cover button design, and for the half length is they use the lower waist for the half length, not like the normal half length that we use. So it's the lower waist half length that is being used, and the down part is a three-tiered layered pleat design. The two pleats, that the second and the third plate is different from the first plate, which is the waist plate. So we're going to be looking into how to make this dress, and it has a balloon sleeve, like vicious sleeve kind of, but it's more fuller with an elastic at the waist area. So this is material I'm going to be using for this tutorial, and to that I folded it into two, and they're going to starting off with our back pattern for the upper part, which is the shirt design. So I'm going to start off by reading out our starting point line. I'm going to start with the back as I stated. So to my neck width, I'm using 2.5 inches for my neck width. So I'm going to be marking that out. And I'm also going to be marking out my neck depth of 1 inch. Remember, this is for the back. So with this back, we're going to use it to cut out the front. You get the front difference there is the button loop, like the button placement allowances. So I'm going to be connecting my lines together. So I'm going to be placing my shoulder measurements. Your shoulder divided by 2. So I place my shoulder measurements, and to that I'm going to be coming down for my shoulder slope as well. So after having gotten my shoulder measurements, I'm going to add half of an inch to it, since we're cutting directly on the material and not on paper. So I'm going to add my shoulder slope as well. Shoulder slope of 1 inch is fine for me. So I marked that same shoulder measurements there, and that I'm going to be connecting to the tip of my shoulder with my neck width as shown. So now I'm going to be placing my armhole measurement. To get your armhole, you divide your bust by 6 plus 1.5 inches or 2 inches if you prepare, if you want to have some space. So bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And to that I also added half of an inch to it. So this my same shoulder measurement, I'm going to be placing it down to be able to get a straight line, so I can able to cover out my armhole curve, you get. So I connected my lines as shown, and then we're going to be proceeding to getting the midpoint of my armhole. So I'm going to place my tape measurement, and I'm going to place it into two, like I'm going to divide it into two by folding it into two, so to get the half and the middle of my measurement. And to that I went in by half of an inch. So this is going to be a guide to getting our armhole. So I'm going to move over to my placement of my chest or bust measurement. Your bust divided by 4 inches. So I'm going to be placing it there. And I'm going to be adding my seam allowance. So because of this video, I'm going to be adding my seam allowance. So I'm going to first of all connect my armhole curve. So make sure that the points are matching. If the point didn't get to the, like if your French curve is not getting the 3 points, connect it one after the other. So from the tip of my shoulder to the middle, and then from the middle to the final point I marked there. And then I make sure that it's curved, like it's blended, there's no pointy edge at that midpoint. So I've connected my armhole. This is my armhole, and to that I'm going to go over to placement of my half length. Remember, we're using the lower waist half length for this, as you can see from the thumbnail. So there's a belt there, so the belt started from the normal half length. So the person went with a belt, and I'm going to be using a belt for mine too. So to the half unit, I'm going to add half of an inch to it because I cut directly on paper, and that's all. Joining the upper part to lower part to get. So I'm going to connect that with a straight rule by a straight line, and we're going to proceed to marking out our waist measurement. So for our waist measurement, it's going to be our waist divided by 4 inches, just as we did for our bust measurement. So divide your waist by 4 and place what you have there, and then we're going to proceed to adding our allowance. So your waist divided by 4. I marked my waist divided by 4 there. This is for a plus size person. So this clothes for a plus size. This is the busting, and then you're going to proceed to add in our sewing allowance of 1.25. 1.25 for mine. Can you use 1.5 inches if you prefer, or 2 inches, depends on you. And so that I'm going to connecting my lines together. So I connected my lines together here, and I extended my my bust measurement to get to the 1.25 inches that we added for our sewing allowance, and I blended it in as shown. So this is all for our back, and then running our neck curve, I'm going to cover out my neck here now. I'm going to cover out your neck. You can use your curve ruler for that, or you can do freehand just as I did. So I connected my back neck curve, and that is all. So this we're going to be cutting out our back pattern. I didn't cut out the neck curve for this back, but I marked it because I want to use it as a guide to cut out the front. After cutting out the front, I'm going to cut it out. So for the front, I also place my material into two, my fabric into two, as you can see, and I place half my back pattern on it, leaving some space at the center front for the adding of our allowance for our button placement. So I added 3 inches to mine, and I'm going to add it all the way to the hem, after which I'm going to be connecting them by a straight line. It's because I want to get the perfect starting point. That's why I did not cut out the back neckline. So I just used that. I just extended that to the back, to the front, to get the starting point 9. And for my front, I'm using 2.5 inches for the depth of my neck. Like for my neck depth, I'm using 2.5 inches. So I was able to get that from there. So I'm going to give a marking at where the neck width for my back is, and that's how I'm going to be using it to connect to just send it to my 2.5 inches I came down by my neck depth for the front. Hope you can understand what I'm saying. I give a marking there. You can see, so that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to be placing my 2.5 inches from that center. You notice that I gave a marking at the center back, like where the center back started at the center front. So that's just a guide for me to get my 2.5 inches neck depth and width as well. So I connected my neck curve for my front. So I connected the neck cuff for the front, and every other thing remains the same. So I'm going to go ahead to cut them out. I'm going to be notching where the center front started, like where the center where the center front started, apart from the extension, and I cut out my neck cuff for the back and the front. See, I curved the front part. So yeah, I'm going to go over to cutting out the lower part, and that's the skirt. I'm going to cutting out the inner skirt first before we cut out the pleats. So to that, I folded my material into two. I ironed it. That's why there are water sprinkles on the material. So I marked my starting point line. So I'm going to be placing my hip placement of 7.5 inches. This is because this is against the 8 or 9 inches that we use for our hip placement. This is because the half length is lower waist. So I'm not using the upper waist length. Remember that the half length for this gown is the lower waist. So I'm using 7.5 inches for my hip placement, and I'm going to be marking out my full length. So I want the full length of this gown to be 21 inches. I'm going to be adding also my hemming allowance to that, and to this I'm going to be connecting my lines together. I'm going to place my waist measurement. My waist divided by 4 inches. I placed it at that area, and I'm going to go over to placing my hip measurement. Your hip divided by 4 as well. So this same hip measurement, I'm going to bringing it down. For this, I'm not going to be contouring the lower part. So it's going to be the same thing for the waist. That's what I'm going to. In terms of for the hip goes down to the lower to the hem. There won't be shaping up or trying to make it to be penciled. And then I'm going to go over to adding my seam allowances of 1.25 as well, and I'm going to connecting my lines together. Remember, this is not a pencil skirt to get. So looking at the design on the thumbnail, it has to be free, and then it has a three-tiered layered plate design. You get, so it's just going to be a straight cut all the way from the waist to the hem, and I'm going to be cutting this out. This is going to be our front pattern, and then we're going to cut out the back as well. So for the center front, I'm going down by 0.75 inches. You can go down by from that zone. I'm going to be cutting it out. And so I lost the clip of the cotton, so I cut it out as shown. So for the lower part, I want the tear to be showing and not the skirt inside. So that's why I said to go up. So I'm cutting out 1.5 inches from this full length, because don't need the inner skirt to be showing after sewing. You just want the tear to complete the length. That means the tear is going to be the lower layer is going to be longer than the skirt, the inner skirt to get. So the full length is going to be completed by that third tear. Hope you understand what I'm saying. Please, if you have any question, please do write to drop in the comment section. I will get to attend to you. And also, if you have gotten to this point, do like, subscribe, to the notification bell to get notified when we upload a new video. So I went ahead to cut the same thing for the back. So the back and the front is going to be the same thing. There's no zipper allowance for the back because I'm going to be adding my zipper at the side. Get, so my zipper is going to be, it's going to run from the armhole to the waist area. So it's going to be attached by the side, and it's going to be an invisible zipper. Get, so I just to indicate the upper and the lower parts, because at the end the whole thing can be looking confusing. And I mark this is the upper side for the back, so that pointing my arrow upwards, and this for the back pattern, for the back part of the skirt, and then this is for the front part. And then I'm going to be cutting out this curve that we gave, that this half inches or 0.75 inches that we came down from at the center front. I'm going to cutting that out, and this is all for our the lower part. And then we're going to proceed to cutting out the tear. Let's go to cutting out the tear and the sleeve. That's what is remaining here. But first of all, let us cut out the collar. So I'm going to cut out the collar. So I folded my material into two, and I folded it again, and the end I have it folded into four. You can see, so I folded this first, and then I said to give it a good press to also get the center front. I want to get that crease line as well, to make sure that when I fold it again the second time, like the tips are aligned. So this is like I'm cutting out the collar, the inside, like the inner as well, I mean the lining piece as well. So I want to cut it at once, so I fold it again into two, and I give it a good press as well. This is what we're going to be using to cut out our collar. So you're going to be measuring out what you have for your collar, like the front and the back piece, after you have taken out half inches for joining the shoulders together. So what you have there for the front and your back piece, you want to divide it into two, and they're going to be placing it like this. This is a faster and a more easier way of cutting a collar. So join me. So I added half of an inch to it for sewing, and to this I went up by 1.5 inches. So I went up by 1.5 inches, and I connected it together. And from here I'm going to be going in by 1 inches. So to go in by 1 inch here, and this is going to be our lower part. And from this 1 inch now that we went in by, so I'm going to try and get that upper part. So from this center piece, this is the side that is folded into two, that has the fold. I went up by 1 inches. So I'm going to be connecting this 1 inch to that 1.5 inches that by the side by with my straight ruler. So I connected the 1.5 inches to the 1 inch. This is a more easier way of getting your color. If you get this, I'm telling you, not even go by that, cutting out the base and the upper part differently. So I went up by 2.5 inches. This is how wide I want the collar stand and be the outer collar to be. Later I did it 2.75. So depending on how you want it, how thick you want the outer layer to be. So I connected that diagonally by the to the one inches that we went inwards by. So I connected diagonally. And then from this side I'm going to be doing 2.5 inches. So the other side is 2.75, and this inner side I went up by 2.5 inches. With my ruler I'm going to be connecting it together. This is what I'm trying to achieve here. So I connected my lines. And for this lower part, so we're going to go up by 0.25 inches. So at the end, he went up by 0.25 inches, and I'm going to connect it diagonally, like just connect it diagonally as shown. See, we're trying to cover out our the base so it's not be straight to get. And this is it. And I'm going to be cutting this out. If you want yours to be more thicker, you can add your 5 inches for turning it or whatever, depending on how you want it. But for me, this is fine for me. So I went over to cover out that sharp edge, and I'll continue with my cutting. So this is it. I marked out the wrong side, and this is our color already. So I added an intertailor, a line interlining, and then come to the side. So over to the cutting out of the sleeve. So I'm going to be folding my material diagonally because it's a full sleeve. You can cut this on paper and then do your slash and spread to get the fullness. But I'm going to cut it directly on my fabric. This is another way to cut it. If you want to cut it directly on your material. So I folded my material into diagonally, and I'm going to be marking out where my, like, I want to find the from the diagonal mark, I'm going to find where my armhole curve, where equals my armhole curve. So that's where I mark this line. Found that that's the place that equals my armhole curve, and I went up by 4.5 inches to get my sleeve cap, and I'm going to be covering this out with my free hand. So I'm going to be creating my sleeve cap just as shown. As easy as that. So this is for my sleeve cap. Remember, I folded this material diagonally. So because it's diagonal, it just have more fullness at the lower part. So when you look, even if you want to do slash and spread method, from the thumbnail, you see that the upper side, like the sleeve cap, only has a little pleat at the center, and then it's a little bit fitted before it now went big at the wrist area. So you want to make sure that from the upper side it's a little bit fitted before you do your, before the lower part, before the balloon effect at the lower part. So I'm sorry I'm not able to capture this fully. So I went over to mark my full length. I'm going to show you that in a JV. So I marked down my full length while adding some allowances. So if you measure your sleeve length, make sure you add like 2 inches or 2.5 inches allowance, because from the thumbnail you find out that the sleeve is big and then the length extended. That's why it gave that balloon effect. So just make sure that you extend the length, like add an extra allowance to the sleeve length you have, the sleeve length you have after taking your sleeve measurements. So I went ahead, that's just what I did here. So I measured it out and I added 1 inches for my elastic, you get, for adding my elastic, and I went ahead to connect my lines and I cut it out. That's just literally what I did here, but I'm sure I'm going to show you that in a GV. So this is what I have, this is what I'm going to be cutting out, you get. So I said to add my half inches for joining my sleeve to my material. So I went ahead to cut it out, but I'm going to recut this again for the second sleeve. This is for one sleeve. After cutting this out, I'm going to cut another one for the second sleeve. I'm going to be exactly as this. I'm going to place this one on top of my fabric. I'm going to recut it out. That is it for our sleeve. So for the cutting of our tail, so I want the skirt length to be 21 inches. So I'm going to be dividing my 21 inches by 3 because it's a 3-tiered layered pleat skirt to get. I'm going to divide that 3, not 21 inches by 3, which is giving me 7 inches. So that's something I'm going to add in 1 inch for the for joining it, like for half inches for hemming the lower part and half inches for sewing it to the skirt. So that's an extra 1 inch to it. So I'm going to be cutting that out, and I want it to be inside, you get. So I'm cutting the third layer now. So I want the third layer not to be showing yet. I want it to be 1 inches inside the second layer, you get. So it's not going to be exactly where the second layer stopped. It's going to be 1 inches inside, so making it 9 inches. So 7 plus 1 inches sewing allowance plus 1 inches for making it tucking it in. That's going to be 9 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to mark 9 inches all the way. I'm going to be cutting this out. This is for my third tier, starting from the lower tier to cut. That's 9 inches. I'm going to be connecting that by my straight with my straight ruler, and I'm going to be cutting it out. So remember, this is for the last layer. It's 9 inches. So the second tier and the third tier is going to be 9 inches, and then I'm going to be cutting out again for the second tier. Second tier is going to be 9 inches length as well, but the third tier, the first one is going to be shorter. You get, and when you see, since found out that the second tier and the third tier is the same, this is for the last layer, I'll be the first layer. For this first layer, I have it 8.5 inches, which is half inches for sewing it. At the end, I have for 7.5 inches. So it's going to be a lapping over the second layer as well. So this is for the fourth layer, which is 8.5 inches that I cut out. I'm going to be cutting this out. So remember, the second and the third layer, I used 9 inches for it, and for the first layer, I'm using 8.5. If any question, please drop in the comment section. I'll be able to attend to you get. So I'll be cutting this out. So this is all for the cutting out of our pieces for this dress. And for the sewing tutorial, I'm going to be dropping that next. Until then, bye.